Your pet is your mirror, reflecting the unhealed, not whole parts of yourself. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Cat TV. My name is Jasmine and this topic is another one of my favorites, and I am constantly initiated and reminded of how our pets and animals generally reflect the unhealed, unseen, unaccepted parts of ourselves. And I have a really great example that I want to share with you. And my dad, he hates the Australian noisy miners, which are the grey ones. And there was a situation where these noisy miners were attacking the blackbirds, and the blackbirds are also a native Australian bird. And the Australian grey miners are also native, but the Indian miners are an introduced species. And so I didn't see this situation, but my dad saw this, and he hates the Australian noisy miners. And he hates the night miners because of this action that he witnessed. But what it actually reminds him of is a younger version of himself where he was attacked and bullied by somebody else, a family member, and also at school. And this situation actually reactivated and played out this exact same situation when he was a younger boy. And so the noisy miner reminds him of the bully, the what's the word? The aggravator. And he was the blackbird. And this image keeps playing out, and it keeps being reactivated, and it keeps being creating trauma for him, because it is inviting him to look at this situation within himself and look at the unhealed, unaccepted, unloved parts of himself. And he hasn't done that yet. And therefore, Source and Spirit keep sending him the same message and inviting him to look at it, but he keeps pushing it away. I want to share another story with you. Earlier this year, in 2025, I was house and pet minding, and I was looking after a Staffy. And I call it the mirror reflections of Staffy because this Staffy was pushing all of my buttons. It was clinging to me. It was sitting on my foot. It was whining in the morning. And the whining that he was going through was like grating my nervous system. I don't know if you guys remember this, but if you were at school and when we used to have blackboards and chalk, and you'd write the chalk and then it was like fingernails through the blackboard, and it like just grates just gives you chills down your nervous system. This is how the Staffy felt to me. Like it was just grating my nervous system when he was whining, and when his paws and the nails were like scraping across the floorboards. And he didn't just want to sit next to me, he wanted to sit on top of me. He was like a 35 kilo Staffy, and I was being pressed. I was angry, I was annoyed, I was frustrated, I was irritated. I was like, get the fuck away from me. And it was really, really pressing me. And I ended up going to my kinesiologist because I was like not coping. And I had an inkling inside of me. My intuition was like, what do dogs represent to me in my life? So mirror reflecting the question of what do cats represent to me in my life. And I do have a video on this, so go back to my previous videos and you'll see what do cats represent into your life. I was asking myself the same question. What do dogs represent into my life? What is my association? They're needy. They are clingy. They're dependent on you. And there were various other things. And I started to reflect upon, okay, cool, like what is the medicine here for me and what is this teaching me? So when I was speaking to my kinesiologist, she asked me that exact question: what do dogs represent to you in your life? And I shared. And she said to me, the Staffy is reflecting the younger parts of yourself, the parts of yourself that you continuously reject and you continuously push aside. And when they come up for you, you go, nah. And you either like push them back down, or you numb them, or you go into various things. And they have been wanting to they've been nagging at you, like inner children that are at your ankles, like wanting your attention. And, this is what the Staffy is asking for you. It's like the Staffy is your inner child. And so this catapulted me into a massive deep dive. The month that I looked after the Staffy was so challenging for me. I honestly couldn't wait to get out of there, but it was so necessary and confronting in the right way. And I remember journaling on this for days and days and days. I was asking myself this question. I was journaling, and I made the promise that whatever emotions come up, I'm going to feel them. I'm not running from them anymore. I'm going to feel them. And I remember journaling on this and saying, if the Staffy represents my inner child, and my inner child is wanting my love, this actually reflects back to me and mirrors back to me a situation with my own father in my childhood, where I wanted my father's attention and he would brush me aside, or he'd push me away, or he'd say my emotions weren't welcome here, or I wasn't allowed to cry, I wasn't allowed to express myself. And so I started to develop all of these rules of love. And I started to learn that these younger parts of myself weren't welcome. They weren't accepted. They weren't allowed to be here. And this same pattern had been played out my whole life, and it was being pressed by the Staffy. It was being triggered. It was being brought forward into the light for me to see. And it's funny because I was in a different state at this time. I was not with my family. I was not in the same state as them. Tilly had recently transitioned only 3 months ago, and a long-term relationship that I had been a part of had changed dynamics. And so for the first time in a really, really, really long time, the people and places that were a safety net and a protective mechanism for me were no longer present, were no longer in my life. And I was in a different state in a new home with me, myself, and I in a relatively safe space. And it's so interesting to me that when we leave familiar situations, whether they are healthy or not, and we create the space for us to be with themselves, all of these parts of ourselves that were hidden, that were buried deep inside, that were not welcome to or not safe enough to come up to the surface, start rising. And it's very easy for us to go into the old ways of being, the old ways of doing, to go into those old patterns of suppression and dismissal and rejection and shoving aside. But there's a saying in the spiritual world, what you resist persists. And the universe will keep sending you the same lessons and the same invitations over and over and over again until you go, okay, I'm dealing with this. I'm facing this. And so this was the situation that I was presented with. And it was triggering and mirroring to me all of these unhealed, unloved parts of myself. And I recognized that the same patterns that were playing out between my father and my younger self were now being played out between me and this Staffy. And I also realized through the situation that I started questioning and reflecting upon, and you may have heard this saying that dog is God backwards. And if God is love, then I am rejecting love. And every time I'm rejecting and dismissing the Staffy, I'm rejecting and dismissing my inner self. And every time I do that, I separate myself from love. And so this was such a poignant and incredibly powerful time, as hard as it was, as triggering it was. I was living on my nerves, like walking around in eggshells, bracing myself every time I went to bed and every time I woke up, because I knew the Staffy would be whining at my door at 6 a.m. And it was incredibly challenging, but it was the medicine that I needed to receive. And so anytime an animal's behavior is triggering you, it's pressing you, it's having you feel frustrated or angry or annoyed or short, or it's bringing up stuff for you that you don't like, and you instantly want to project and blame onto the animal and go, stop barking, stop doing this, rah, 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 rah. Understand that you are doing that to yourself on some level. And it's not the animal. They're just divinely mirror reflecting this part to yourself. And the invitation is for you to stop, for you to see what this dog or what this cat or this animal or bird, whatever it is, what is it reflecting? What is it showing you? What is the mirror reflection right now? And is it reflecting an inner child wound? Is it reflecting a relationship between you and somebody else? Is it reflecting a relationship between you and your father, you and your mother, you and your sibling, you and your friend, whatever it is? And when we can come into or meet these parts of ourselves with presence and love and acceptance, and any time they come up and go, I've got you. I'm not running for you anymore. You're safe here. You're safe with me. All is well. I've got you. It's safe for you to be here. It's safe for you to be here. It's safe for you to be here. All parts of you are welcome. We meet these parts of us with love. And then that resistance, that rigid wall, it starts to become a little bit more malleable. And each time, and then it just gently starts to dissolve. But it requires you to meet these parts of yourself at every single layer. I remember I was going to the beach with the Staffy. We were going to the dog park. And I was nervous. This was not my dog. I was looking after it. And dogs can be a little bit unpredictable. And sometimes they can be totally okay. And sometimes the next minute they can be reacting, but they're also very good at defending their territory. So while I was out on this walk, I went one day and the dog was fine. So we went back the next day and it was not fine. The dog got into a bickering with another dog. It was like protecting a stick, I think it was, or a ball. And so it got into a little bit of fight, and then it was okay. And then it reacted to this little dog. And I freaked out, and then I said, let's go home. So I put the dog back on the lead. We were at an off-leash dog park, and we walked home. And my nervous system, and I was triggered, I was embarrassed, and I said to myself, all parts of me are welcome. Because where in my life have I been in a situation where I made a mistake, or perhaps I said the wrong thing, or perhaps I behaved in a way that somebody else didn't like, and I started to feel the collective energies and the collective judgment and various other things. And so there is always an opportunity for us to be able to take situations and invite introspection, where we get to look at ourselves and look at the parts of ourselves and invite in another layer of self-love and self-acceptance, and to remind our younger selves, our little selves, that all parts of you are welcome here. The big, the bold, the brave, the shy, the timid, the part of you that is loud and boisterous, the part of you that is quiet and shy, the part of you that is standing up for your territory, that is standing up for what you believe in, And then the part of you that also chooses to take a back seat. The part of you that wants love and acceptance and validation and wants to be seen and wants to be heard. All parts of ourselves are welcome here. And this is the message of today's videos. Where in your life can you invite introspection? Can you look at your younger self? Can you invite the initiation of your pet or another pet or an animal in general to go, where do I do that? Why am I so triggered by that behavior? What is that reflected in me? Where am I feeling pressed right now? And invite in exploration and in curiosity. And you'll be surprised that you will meet parts of yourself that you have swept under the carpet, that you have dismissed and pushed aside. But you'll also be surprised at the amount of healing and transformation that can take place when you allow something like this to transform you. So, thank you so much for watching today's videos. I would love to hear your thoughts, your feelings, your comments. Have you had an experience like this? And have you had an experience where an animal has really set you off and it's mirror reflected a deeper part of yourself that you have, pushed aside for a very long time? And like always, please like, subscribe, and share your comments, share these videos, invite anybody in who you think this would be of benefit to. And thank you so much for watching. I'm truly grateful for you being here, and I trust this was of service and of value to you. And I will see you next time for another episode of Cat TV. Bye for now.